Hello, Yakri here with another Warframe video. This time I want to talk about the Lanka and the build that I use for it. Some people have requested on a couple different videos of mine that I do my build that I've been using for the Lanka, as I use it in a few videos as an example of like a really high power weapon or to combo with some ability like Mags 2. So this is the build that I use most of the time with the Lanka. And this is particularly good because sniper rifles have this annoying problem of being like not too quick firing weapons that deal massive damage, right? But they only shoot like a single shot, and in Warframe, well, it's a horde shooter, so you have this issue where you're trying to gun down a huge crowd of enemies and you can only just hit like one or two guys who are lined up at a time. Well, gas procs kind of solve this problem, and on much lower level enemies, the electric procs help as well. And what gas procs do is they create a gas cloud, and the cloud is a 5-meter radius sphere. And every enemy inside of that gas cloud is hit for gas proc damage, which is based on your like total hit damage, right? The gas portion of your total hit damage. And then they're also hit with a toxic proc, which is based on your gas damage as well. So with a very high damage weapon like the Lanka, especially one that can crit very high, you're going to just wipe out crowds of high level enemies with this setup. And because of how status chance works, for each enemy you hit when you're punching through 2 or 3 enemies, each one has a chance to trigger a proc. Now, if these enemies are close together, you can punch through, say, 3 enemies, and each one, let's say, we've got 83% chance. Let's say we get lucky, and each one triggers a gas proc, right? So we've got 3 gas clouds. Now, let's suppose that the farthest back enemy and the closest enemy are 5 meters apart. That means that they'll hit each other with their gas cloud procs, right? The gas clouds that proc on each of them. And the guy in the middle will also be hit by both of those gas clouds. And then the guy in the middle will also have a gas cloud on him that'll hit both of those 2 guys. And then there might be guys to the left and right of this line of 3 dudes that you've shot, right? And those guys are also going to get hit by the gas clouds. And it depends on how tightly the units are packed. Of course, hallways and tile sets like Grineer's ship, this is particularly effective on those, where enemies are really grouped up tightly, but you can get like quite a few hits from a single shot this way. And when you have those overlapping gas clouds, you're essentially multiplying the damage of your weapon by how many times you get an overlap. So, 3 enemies are hit, they're going to take 3 times damage, once for the initial shot, and twice for the 2 other enemies who procced gas clouds, right? So that's what makes this really good and lets you get like really high damage on very high level enemies, despite even on enemies where gas damage is a very ineffective damage type, right? This can still be good. Another thing I should point out, I don't do it on this weapon as it's like kind of slow, combination of slow firing and the fact that it can kill high level enemies anyway makes it kind of pointless, but or overkill. But hunter munitions can also help with builds like this, where you can get a gas proc and every enemy hit by the gas proc will have a slash proc triggered on them, right, for the total crit damage of that gas proc. And so that will usually just kill whatever you fucking procced it on, because a slash proc with this much damage, this gun can kill enemies through their massive damage reduction. Well, slash procs ignore damage reduction. So if I were to swap something out like Malignant Force or something, I could swap out Malignant Force, and I could just rely on those slash procs to try and kill enemies. But it's kind of pointless because this is going to kill them all anyway, right? Maybe if it had a little bit lower damage and it couldn't quite take them out, this would be more useful. Okay, so I also have a corrosive build, and this is basically if you don't really care about the AoE damage and you want to have a little bit better damage on armored enemies at high level, right? Because ferrite armor, I think it's ferrite armor that takes 75% bonus damage from corrosive, right? So like Grineer heavy gunners, Grineer bombards, those kind of guys are going to take more damage from this, right? And if you only need to kill 1 or 2 dudes like that, like maybe a boss or something, then this is perfectly good because there's no need for multi-target damage, right? So gas is pointless. Now I've got my Eidolon killer here, and this does radiation damage instead, right? And that's just because the Eidolon has ally armor, and that takes 75% bonus damage from radiation, making this arguably the best Eidolon killing weapon in the game, as long as you've got a Riven for it. I mean, it's good without the Riven, but the point is, like, if you have a Riven for one good Eidolon killing weapon and not for another, the one with the Riven is probably a better choice, because they do make a pretty significant difference in the overall effectiveness of weapons, at least weapons that are fairly popular, right? Since Riven disposition is based on popularity. Now, something else to keep in mind, especially, or just with the corrosive and Eidolon killer builds, right? Corrosive and radiation builds, is that since electric combines into corrosive and radiation, with weapons like the Lanka and other elemental weapons where you can make a combination like this, like it's equally true of a fire-based damage weapon that you've modded for radiation. Since you get 100% radiation damage, this means that all of your damage is going to get that multiplier when you use it versus an enemy that radiation damage is effective against, right? So versus Eidolons, my whole damage, the total damage of my weapon, gets that 75% bonus damage because I'm dealing radiation damage when I'm supposed to be dealing radiation damage, right? Against enemies that are weak to radiation damage. Now, if you were to use, say, the Opticore, another weapon that's really good at taking down Eidolons, the Opticore has IPS damage, right? And that means that I can't get 100% of my damage to be radiation, which means that some of my damage is not going to get the full benefits of modding for the correct damage type. So, any elemental weapon like this, and especially the Lanka in particular, because it can mod for radiation and corrosive, which are those really nice against high-end enemies armor types, right? Alloy or ferrite. They're really good if you mod them correctly for the enemy type that you're going up against, right? They're like a particularly good type of weapon to take if you want to actually like configure your build for the type of enemies you're going to fight. Of course, the Lanka deals such a massive overkill damage that you don't actually need to bother with that unless you're actually fighting Eidolons or level like 150 enemies. But, yeah, you know, you get the general idea, right? So, now we've got that out of the way, I'm going to show off what I can do with the gas and corrosive procs. I can't spawn an Eidolon in here. I mean, I could spawn some other enemy guy, but it's going to be basically the same story as if I did the corrosive procs, right? So, let's take a look at these guys. What settings do I have on here? Yeah, pausing the AI is fine. I don't really need to show off my dodging skills. I just want to show how much damage this weapon does. Right, so initially it's kind of meh, right? Because that shot combo is really nice, right? Look at that 4.3x or 4.3x zoom, 0.5% crit chance per combo multiplier, right? So this weapon starts to get really heavy into the orange crits, right? And that's when you start to see some serious effectiveness, right? Okay, so let's take a shot. Let's take a shot at some of these guys down here now. We've got this multiplier built up a little bit. Oh man, look at that toxic damage, right? That's what I'm talking about with the gas clouds, right? Especially when you're in a mission with lots of targets where you can actually build up your shot multiplier quite high. I'm kind of letting it decay here. But, oh, no procs there, right? And you can shoot through a couple enemies at once so you can get those multi-hit procs, right? You can kill crowds of enemies really effectively. Yeah, without actually even directly hitting the correct target. And that's pretty much the whole story with that, right? That's why it's good. I already explained all the mechanics behind it. So let's take a look at the corrosive damage, and the corrosive damage is just going to get a better multiplier versus ferrite armor. I believe using the like optimal damage type ignores part of the armor. I think that's right. It's been a while since I read up on it on the wiki, but there we go. Just really high damage numbers. Let's just build up the shot multiplier a little bit and go to a different group of enemies. As you can see, you know, versus enemies at this level, this isn't actually like helping me that much, right? Compared to the gas build. Because the gas build's like multiplicativeness of like, if I shoot through two guys with punch through, right? And therefore trigger two gas clouds, I'm basically doubling the weapon damage. And with how much damage the Lanka does, and with the Riven mod I've got, it's quite a bit of overkill for enemies of this level. Without the Riven mod even, of course, you can get up to pretty close to this tier, or if you damage boost yourself, you'll be able to hit this level of enemies and just kind of obliterate them, right? Let's get a headshot. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's more like it. Boom, boom. Once you get 3x shot multiplier, it starts getting crazy. Okay, so yeah, that kind of gets you the idea of what this is good for. If you actually need to get off this many shots and you need to kill enemies with like this much individual HP, it's pretty good. Especially as you get into even higher level enemies, like level 200. If you're fighting level 200 enemies, the armor difference is gonna matter more, and the percent bonus is gonna matter more. Yeah, so it's gonna be more worth it to take the correct damage type against them. And of course, if you're fighting Eidolons, I don't think you can affect the Eidolon with gas procs or anything, and so going for that Eidolon killing radiation damage build is just ideal. And because how this kind of got sparked with some stuff with mag, let's do a little, oh wait, I didn't have the right damage on here. To send off the video, let's just do a little demonstration of why like gas procs are like super stupid with mag in particular, right? So what's gonna happen here is that mags 2 causes the projectile, right, your projectile to ricochet back and forth within the bubble. So, and it also multiplies the damage of the weapon. So the Lanka, it has 5 meters of punch through, which means that any of these enemies, it can just punch through like this whole line of enemies. Since it has to hit an object that's more than 5 meters thick before the punch through is ended. So it's just going to keep traveling in my magnetize, right, until it runs out of range, right, which is like 600 meters. So it's going to go back and forth through all these guys like a fuck ton of times, right? And each time it's going to deal an instance of damage and have a chance to gas proc. And when it gas procs, it's going to hurt all of the enemies in the bubble for the damage of the gas proc. So this is what happens. Suck them all to the center. Whew! Yeah, spicy. And it will do that to much higher level enemies than this, actually. Probably if you armor strip them, I don't even know how high you could go. Probably level 300 or 400 enemies? I don't know. Eventually it won't work, but their base HP would have to be massively high, like not including armor, just like thousands, because mag can armor strip enemies, right? So you strip all their armor off, or you bring 4x CP and play some other frame, and yeah. I mean, I guess you would have to play mag to do a little thing. But yeah, it's brutally effective. It's really great. This isn't the only weapon that can do it, of course, but it's a particularly hilarious one, right? And I rather enjoy it myself. So that's how I build my Lanka. I'll probably use it in some more future videos. And if you've seen me using it before, these are the builds I've been using with it. Don't have any others, really. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, comment, subscribe, or, you know, generally give me something to do, some entertainment. I think I tried to combine entertainment and attention in one. I need attention and entertainment, man. I'm bored here. Give me something to work with. Anyway, Yakri out.